Ashe, 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 I say to you all, my melanin brothers and sisters, the world over. Yes, it's I, the mystic philosopher, and welcome to this, another of my podcast, lecture, and blog post, themysticp.com. It's another perspective with I, the mystic philosopher. Sorry. And yes, my melanin people, it is indeed high time for reasoning. The title of this podcast and blog post is really in the form of two questions. Actually, two questions. Question one: are black people racist? And question two: can white people be racist? Another perspective from I, the mystic philosopher. Now, these are two questions that I have been frequently asked. So I have decided to do this video presentation as a response, and so that others might be able to watch and possibly benefit from it as well. So as not to keep answering the same questions over and over again, doing this video, I find it convenient to do it and post it and refer people to it and get also their comments and their feedback and their criticisms, which also help me to dig deeper and expand in knowledge, understanding, and ultimately wisdom. It is also part of my presentation series. This presentation will also form part of my presentation series called Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell. All that I'm doing is to help people understand the importance of not calling themselves black, my people that is. Understand what is the meaning and definition of the word black and how it is affecting us as a people, mentally, physically, spiritually, and otherwise. So let's begin. Are black people racist? And can white people be racist? Now, in order to truthfully and informatively answer these two very important questions, we must by default answer the following 5 questions. Namely, who is a racist? What is racism? 3, what is race? And 4, what is a race? And 5, what is reverse racism? So let me start out by saying that from my perspective, from I, the mystic philosopher's perspective, if racism is evil, and if the believers and practitioners of racism are also called racist, then we must logically conclude that all black people are racist. Let me repeat for emphasis and clarity and clarity of expression. I will repeat for emphasis and for clarity of expression. From I, the mystic philosopher's perspective, if, the operative word, if racism is evil, and if the believers and practitioners of racism are also called racist, then we must logically conclude that all black people are racist. And why am I so frank, abrupt, and unapologetically speak with such authority, you may be asking? And the answer is quite simple. The word black is synonymous with the word evil. In other words, black is evil and evil is black. And if we agree with this statement of fact, then we must also sensibly and logically affirm that all black people are evil, and vice versa. All evil people are black. And for those of you, my listeners, that did not know or that do not know the meaning and definition of the word synonymous, well, according to the Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, synonymous means and is defined as, and I quote, having the character of a synonym, also alike in meaning or significance, and two, having the same connotations, implications, or reference, unquote. Not only are the words black and evil synonymous with each other, but they are also adjectives. And what is the function, or what is the meaning, definition, and purpose of an adjective? In this, the English language, you may be asking. And the answer, according to the English dictionaries, or more precise, the answer according to the Winston Canadian Dictionary for School, the meaning, purpose, and definition of an adjective is, and I quote, a part of speech expressing quality or condition. A word used to limit. Adjective is a word used to limit or define a noun or a pronoun, unquote. And just to keep us on the straight and narrow path, in order that there is no misconstruction or misinterpretation or misunderstanding of this basic truth, the dictionary is hereby kind enough to give us 3 practical examples of how an adjective is used and what is an adjective. Example number 1, as given by the dictionary, a bad law. Example number 2, a wise man. Example number 3, a green leaf. And if I might add, an example number 4, a black people. In example number 1, a bad law, the word bad is an adjective and the word law is a noun. Here in this sentence, the word bad is expressing quality or condition of the noun law, of the word or the noun law. The word bad is expressing the quality or the condition of the word or of the noun law. Or if you prefer, the word bad is hereby used to limit or define the noun law. In other words, the word bad, is describing the quality, the condition, and the nature of the law. And the same principle is the same principle of analysis and evaluation is applicable to examples number 2, number 3, and to number 4. Wise is the adjective and man is the noun. Green is the adjective and leaf is the noun. Black is the adjective and people is the noun. And so any human with a brain that is alive, coupled with basic common sense that is activated, will see, know, and understand that here in this sentence, the word black is expressing the quality or the condition of the noun or of the people or of the noun people. Or if you prefer, the word black is hereby used to limit or define the noun people. In other words, it is describing the quality, the condition, and the nature of the people. And the result is black people are evil. The question that you, my listeners, that are in possession of living brains and activated common sense have to ask yourselves and answer yourselves is, are you black? Or more directly, ask yourself this question, am I black? And am I really black? And you must and you will determine the answer for yourself. And if it turns out that you are black, then please stay black. Question number 2. Can white people be racist? And my answer to this question is this. If white, according to the language that we're using, according to its dictionary and all its grammatical rules, if white is the opposite of black, then white is good. Then white is pure. White is blameless. White is unblemished. And black is evil. Therefore, white people, and listen carefully now, white people, were any to be found living on this our planet Earth, cannot, could not, and would not be racist. And just for the record, let me repeat that Caucasians are not white people. So be not deceived. Question number 3. Who is a racist? A racist, by definition, by meaning and definition, is a believer and a practitioner of racism. Question number 4. What is racism, or what really is racism? Now, please let me begin by quoting from one of my own songs as I attempt to answer this question. What is racism, or what really is racism? One of my own songs, it said, a lot of our people just like to run their mouths. They are just too damn lazy to take time to think and to sort things out. Unquote. Just ask the majority of our people randomly. And I specifically point out our people because that's where my focus is on. I love my neighbor as myself. So myself, my people comes first. So my focus on all that I do and doing these presentations is hopefully to inform or to stimulate some from among my people to think and reason for themselves, and hopefully we all can be liberated. Because as I said before, one of us cannot be free or claim that we are free or liberated while others are still in bondage. Because united we stand and divided we fall. But just ask the majority of our people randomly, and especially some of the systems educated ones. Just ask them this question: what really is racism? Or what is racism? And see all the possible answers you get. All the academic, intellectual, scholarly, some stupid, nonsensical, you name them, responses that you will get. Most people cannot give you a clear and precise meaning or definition of the word racism and what it is. They all have an opinion of what it is or of what it should be. However, the one thing, though, that most of our people know about racism and do know of a fact is that it is evil. But how do we identify racism and not confuse it with other manifestations of evil? With the exception of the dictionaries and Wikipedia, everybody that I listen to or articles that I have read just talk about this thing called racism as if everybody knows exactly, or everybody know exactly what it is, or that every one of us already has a clear mental definition and understanding of racism, of what racism is. All the speakers and writers are loosely and arbitrarily using adjectives to describe racism without first clearly defining what is the thing called racism, what it is. For example, I heard speakers and read writers using adjectives such as individual racism, interpersonal racism, institutional racism, cultural racism, structural racism, reverse racism, unconscious racism, subtle racism, internalized racism, all describing racism. All these adjectives describing racism. But none of these terms tells me or defines for me what racism really is, or what is the conventional meaning and definition of racism. I know what individual is, I know what interpersonal is, cultural, structural, reverse is, unconscious. I know what unconscious is, I know what subtle is, internal lies is, but exactly what is racism, or what is the thing that they are being used, these adjectives are being used to describe what it is. And this led me to do my own search by referring the English dictionaries, and also to later affirm that this thing called racism is an evil alien ideology that first came about with the creation and establishment of the Adamic race upon this our planet and Mother Earth. And just like the people of the Adamic race, or the Adamic races themselves, the purpose of this evil alien ideology called racism is to first confuse, divide, conquer, capture, subdue, subjugate, dominate, enslave, and eventually to exterminate us, we the earth's organic humans, we the earth's organic and pre-Adamic humans. Now, here's another of my quote as I continue in answering this question. In one of my writing, I remember writing this. It said, if you want to know your enemy's thoughts and innermost secrets, you must first learn his or her language. Listen keenly to every word he or she speaks and read everything he or she writes. Unquote. Now, I'm about to quote from Wikipedia its definition of racism, but first let me remind you that Wikipedia is not necessarily a reliable source of information. In other words, I will not base all my argument on their definition of the word racism. However, I find that this particular definition is consistent or is in line with most of my other findings. So that's the reason why I'm actually using Wikipedia here as one of the definitions, quote for one of the definitions of racism. And I quote from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedic dictionary. I'm quoting from an article that states that it should not be, the definition and explanation here should not be confused with racialism. We're talking about racism. Racism is, and I quote, racism is the belief in the superiority of one race over another, which often results in discrimination and prejudice towards people based on their ethnicity. The use of the term racism does not easily fall under a single definition. The ideology underlying racism often includes the idea that humans can be subdivided into distinct groups that are different due to their social behavior and their innate capacities, as well as the idea that they can be ranked as inferior or superior. 2. Historical examples of institutional racism include the Holocaust, the apartheid regime in South Africa, slavery and segregation in the United States, and slavery in Latin America. Racism was also an aspect of the social organization of many colonial states and empires. Unquote. The Merriam-Webster's online dictionary defines racism as, and I quote, a belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. 2a, a doctrine or political program based on the assumption of racism and designed to execute its principles. 2b, a political or social system founded on racism. And 3, definition 3, from the Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, racial prejudice or discrimination. Unquote. Number 3, according to the New Lexicon, Webster's Dictionary of the English Language, racism is defined as, and I quote, the assumption that the characteristics and abilities of an individual is determined by race, and that one race is biologically superior to another. A political program or a social system based on these assumptions, racist, which is the person who practices these beliefs. Unquote. Dictionary number 4, definition. According to the Living Webster Encyclopedic Dictionary of the English Language, racism is defined as, and I quote, the belief not substantiated scientifically, that each human race is characterized by distinctive attributes which determine behaviors and capacities, and that a particular race is inherently superior. A social political policy that is based upon this notion. Again, the practitioner of this ideology is known as a racist. Dictionary number 5. According to the Oxford Canadian Dictionary of Current English, racism is defined as, quote, 1. A belief in the superiority of a particular race, and 2. Prejudice or antagonism towards other races based on this racist, who is the practitioner of these beliefs. And dictionary number 6, racism, according to the Winston Canadian Dictionary for Schools, is, and I quote, fear or dislike of a race other than one's own, or the doctrine that some races are inferior to others, unquote. Now I want you to please pay very close attention to one thing or one thread that is common in all 6 of these definitions, and particularly the first 5. And it is the word belief. Here we can see that racism is based on belief and not on knowing, also known as knowledge. It's based on belief but not on knowledge or on knowing. Here we can plainly see that racism is a belief system and a system of belief. And what is another word for a belief system, also known as a system of belief? It is the word religion. And a believer and practitioner of the religion called racism is a racist. The second thing that I want you to pay attention to, very close attention to, in all 6 of these definitions, is the fact that just like denominations and factions within major religions, all 6 definitions from all 6 different dictionaries varies. The third thing that I want you to pay attention to is definition number 6 by the Winston Canadian Dictionary for Schools, and I quote, racism is as fear or dislike of a race other than one's own, or the doctrine that some races are inferior to others. Example 1. According to this definition, if you have fear or dislike for a race other than your own, that is racism. And by default, you are qualified as a racist. And by the same token, if you have fear or dislike for your own race, and you are doing all manner of evil to them or against them, even if you are doing the same racist acts against them as the racist from another race does to it or to them, still would not and cannot be racism. Therefore, you are not qualified as a racist. In other words, a racist, as defined here from another race, can have, for example, a Caucaside can have one of our people, train them and have them work among us and do us all manner of evil, worse than what they, the racist, those among the Caucaside, the racists, that would have done to us. But by definition, by this definition, that person, regardless of what office he or she may hold, carrying out the duty and the job as an agent of the system against us, we still could not call that person a racist, or he or she would not be qualified to be called a racist. Let's look at another example, example 2, from while critiquing and analyzing this definition. If you were to have or express any fear or dislike whatsoever, justifiable fear or justified fear or justified dislike or unjustified fear or unjustified dislike, if you were to express that for the civilized races of man, the civilized races of mankind that have been a curse to us and our mother nature, the civilized races of man that have brought diseases, chattel slavery, mental slavery, colonialism, death, and destruction, you name it, upon my ancestors, or upon our ancestors, and by extension upon us, their offspring and remnant today, then according to this definition, by default, that is racism, and you would be qualified as a racist. Example 3. If you were to express fear that the civilized races of mankind, of the civilized races of man, correctly, mankind will or might do the same evils to us that they have done to us, the same that they might do the same evils that they have done to us in our past, if they should be doing it all over again, if we have fear that they will do it all over again, do it to us all over again, then according to this definition, by default, this is not racism. Or rather, this is racism. And you are qualified as a racist. And just to let me remind you of what we're talking about here. It said, according to example, according to this definition for racism, fear, according to the Winston Canadian Dictionary for Schools, it defined racism as fear or dislike of a race other than one's own, or the doctrine that some races are inferior to others. Let's look at another example, this time example 4. If you were to have or express fear for the civilized man, and particularly justifiable fear that the civilized races, or for the let me repeat that. If you were to have or express any fear for the civilized races of man, and particularly the justifiable fear that the civilized races of man, also known as the civilized races of mankind, is predicted that they will exterminate your melanin race, then according to this definition, by default, that is racism, and you are qualified as a racist. So even to fear the enemy, by this definition, just to fear the enemy, legitimate fear of what, based on their history, based on their past, and their present, and the experiences that have been imprinted upon our DNA, the fear and the torture and the agony that they have caused us, and that is in our DNA memory system, if that should be activated and we express justifiable fear of them and what they can do, what they have done, and what they will do, then by definition, that is racism, and you are qualified as a racist. Example number 5. If you were to express rational or irrational fear of an alien race of humans that might be living on Mars or wherever, then according to this definition, by default, that is racism, and you are qualified as a racist. Now, what is a race? In one of my earlier presentations, or some time ago, when I spoke, I mentioned that all words that end with isms are not good for us, the highly melaninated people. They are destructive towards us, never benefit us. Isms represent doctrines and teachings. For example, the word race is okay, but once you add the word ism to it, that's when you have a problem. Name any word and add ism to it, or ism, and the family of isms, and they are destructive to us. Anyhow, let's focus on what is a race. Let me give you the definition of the word race from the English dictionary to lay the foundation in order to share my insight and give my perspective on what it is, what a race is. According to the Winston Canadian Dictionary for Schools, the word race is defined as race, number one, a swift current of water, or the channel for such a current, as a mill race. Two, course of life or career, as my race is run. Three, a competitive contest of speed, as in running or swimming. Also, any contest or rivalry, as a political race. To run swiftly, as to race a motor. And two, to try to beat in speed contest, as I'll race you to the corner. Unquote. Race number two, from the said dictionary, the descendant of a common ancestor, a family, and two, a people or group of peoples united by a common language, religion, or culture, as the English race. And three, a division of mankind made up of tribes descended from a common stock, as the Negro race. And four, a class of persons with common interests and traits, as the race of poets. Unquote. Now let me dissect this for you, quickly for you. In definition number 1 and 2, a race is given as the descendants of a common ancestor, a family, and 2, a people or group of peoples united by common language, religion, or culture, as the English race. Unquote. Right here and now, I would like to point out the fact that these Caucasoid lexicographers that write this, their English dictionary, are talking about themselves being the descendants of a common ancestor who is the creature called Adam and their Adamic race. Adam, who was created by his God, and according to the said dictionary, a creature is something that is created. So he's a creature, he was created. Give thanks and praise and honor and reverence to our source. We, the Earth's organic humans, the natural native earthly humans, the highly melanated humans, are not creatures. We were never created. We are natures. We are natures. We will forever be. There's no beginning and no end to us. Even though the creatures convert most of our people and having them believe in a creator. We have no creator. Mother Nature has no creator. She has no beginning nor no end. We are pre-creatures. We are pre-Adam or pre-Adamic. We are the pre-Adamic humans. Now, so here they are telling us, what they are telling us is that they are from the common ancestor called Adam, the Adamic race. However, please let me point out how desperately wicked and racist they are in their dictionary and their definition of race. The third, and I explained this to you when I did a commentary on the definition of the word black and the definition of the word white in other presentations. But let me not spend time on that here. I did it already. The third definition of race from the dictionary, the Canadian dictionaries, the Winston Canadian Dictionary for School, the dictionary states, and I quote, a division of mankind made up of tribes descended from a common stock, as the Negro race, unquote. Here, they are literally saying that we, the pre-Adamic humans, we the natural native earthly humans, we the Earth's organic and highly enriched melaninated humans, also known as Africans, or African people, that they have falsely, contemptuously, and maliciously labeled, named, listed, and called the Negro and the black people are not humans. Note, they say, a division of mankind, a division of a kind of man. And two, they say, made up of tribes descended from a common stock as the Negro race. Now, most, if not all of my people that read this either didn't pick it up or they just let it fly. But the question that I ask is, what is meant by descended from a common stock? And what is a stock? According to this said dictionary, the word stock is also defined as domestic animals kept on a farm, or stock is also defined as livestock. Something to think about, but I will have much more to say on this point at another time. The whole purpose of this presentation was to just answer the question, are black people racist? And can white people be racist? Which I think I've done. So far I think I have answered all your questions. And hopefully I have answered them with enough clarity and information for you, my listeners, to do your further search and research in order to build a solid foundation of knowledge and understanding of what race, racist, and racism is all about. For you shall know the truth, and the truth will be part of your liberation. Seek for yourself. Notice I said, do your own search and then research. A lot of people come telling you about research. If you don't do search first, you can't do research. So search for yourself first, then you can do your research. So let me thank you for your time, for the time spent listening to this and listening or watching me, or watching this presentation. And your comments and questions and feedback are encouraged. And for more thought-provoking insights and perspectives on many other topics, I hereby invite you to please check out the rest of my uploaded videos and podcasts and blog posts at www.themysticp.com. That is THEMYSTICP.com. And also my YouTube channel called The Right Number, which is youtube.com/The Right Number. One word, THERIGHTNUMBER. I am the mystic philosopher. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.